I had about 2,700 matches. It is a lot. That's the name of the game in dating apps. It's about volume and numbers and swiping and being so active, right? That's what the app wants you to do so that you continue to use the product. Wow, am I worth anything? Why are people talking to me like I'm just a sexualized object? Why am I swiping through all these people? Well, how quickly I became seduced. We're not talking about how we feel when we're moving through these new domains and these spaces in between, digital or in real life, when in reality it is extremely blurry.
Have you kind of consciously recreated identities?
Oh, certainly. Because I had a lot of recreating to do until I was 39. I was quite an active alcoholic. My mother was also an alcoholic. No shame in talking about it. It's very important to talk about it. I got a PhD. I was still struggling with my worth as a human being. Life is too short, and I wanted to move forward in a constructive way, especially in menopause. That's a first. Whoa, that's a big first, let me tell you. Woo. Raw dogging life is hard because...
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Many Firsts, the podcast where we explore the power of first-time experiences and share transformative and inspirational moments in our lives. I'm your host, Regula Fischer, and I'm super excited to be here today, live in the studio in Amsterdam with Treena Orchard. Welcome, Treena.
It's great to be here.
Good morning. I have to say, I know you're jet lagged. You came in from Canada a few days ago.
Yeah.
Could you tell us your secret? You seem to be up and shining at this early hour.
Well, I'm used to getting up very early. I have 2 cats that often wake me up very, very early, and you can't say no to them. And I've just been really thriving on the good energy in this city and the event. And so I'm just all in. And I had a shower. That helps.
Yeah. And just as the day obviously has been short, but has there been any first maybe today?
Today?
It's probably been too short. It's not even 9 o'clock yet.
Well, no, I bid on two art pieces that a friend of mine, her daughter, created. So that was something, a first that I did today, something new. And I was the first person to bid on both of those art pieces. So that was kind of fun.
Oh, no, I'm so curious. So you even had time this morning to do that?
I make time for art anytime. And also all the proceeds go to charity. And so it's just wonderful.
Art, that's a word with A. And to introduce you, I know that you like alliterations. So I thought, why not pick the letter A? Because you are an anthropologist,
yes,
an
right.
activist, an author.
There we go.
And an associate professor at Western University in Canada, where you do research and you teach on sexual wellness. Your latest book, Sticky, Sexy, Sad, is a deep dive into the world of dating apps and what it tells us about the way we connect, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, which of these A's would you like to dive in first? Do you have a preference?
Well, let's say anthropology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think you speak about things that not everyone speaks about. And as part of your job as an anthropologist, I would say to bring awareness to certain topics, right? What brought you on that path?
Well, yes, one of the reasons I wanted to do the first topic to be anthropology is because it's really shaped my career and my life for the past 3 or 4 decades, since the 90s. That's when I went to undergraduate school. I'm older than I look. But it was in an anthropology course in my 3rd year that I first really realized what I wanted to do with my life. And also the time that I really felt seen by a professor for the first time, and what a dramatic difference that had. It radically transformed my life, my goals, my ambitions, how I saw myself contributing and taking part in the world in a really meaningful way.
That's interesting what you're saying about being seen, that this kind of helped.
Totally.
That, of course, would immediately kind of make me think of apps, another A, and I'm not sure if we want to go there right away, but it's the way we're seen, right, in this digital world is, of course, I would say, an interesting topic. And what did your experience when writing your book, the latest one, in that world kind of tell you about being seen, or how did you feel in that experience?
Yes.
Did you felt seen, or
sometimes?
How was that for you?
Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. One of the reasons I wrote the book is because I didn't understand what was happening with the apps. I'm a Flintstone. I just got a vehicle like 2 years ago, and I still probably only have about 15 or 20 apps on my phone. And so, but I knew that I was ready to dive into romance, and I knew that I lived in a very small city, very few interesting options in terms of romance. And so I sort of felt almost like I was forcing myself into this new experience. But as soon as I opened the app and tried to figure out which photos to include and which kind of profile, of course, it was way too long and a bit academic. I began just noticing what a difference it was in terms of how people treated me and how people communicated verbally, visually. I found it very bewildering, and that's why I started to write, was a way to make sense of the chaos and the confusion I was experiencing, but also because I was immediately fascinated.
That's an interesting mix. So were you writing while you were experiencing it? It was not like first you dove into the experience and then you wrote from like a memory, so it was in parallel?
Well, for the first 5 or 6 months, it was in parallel. And I began on the dating app called Bumble, which used to be referred to as a feminist dating app. It's not. But I was swiping while recording information. And that really was exhausting because it's like I was living it twice. I was experiencing it, but then I also had to document it. And it's when I had about 2,700 matches during that 5 or 6 month period. So I had to mark them all down, how many times I got ghosted, how many conversations went outside the app, how many men I actually met in those 5 months. It was a lot to record and also experience and try and make sense of at the same time.
I'm wondering, as I'm listening to this, so I would imagine that many people using these apps or similar apps would maybe not write down and not do the research, but have a feeling for, how many likes did I get? How many matches did I get, right? It's maybe more subjective. Well, of course, your research would then make it more objective. But so how have you been navigating this topic of maybe confidence also, or with this overwhelm, I mean, 700 plus matches seems like a good number, but did you have such thoughts, kind of comparing it to maybe the worth, the value you have, anything?
Well, it's 2,700 matches, which is not an abnormal amount, by the way. I have since learned.
Okay.
To
me, it sounds like,
it is a lot, but that's the name of the game in dating apps. It's about volume and numbers and swiping and being so active, right? That's what the app wants you to do so that you continue to use the product. But yeah, it absolutely made me feel like, wow, am I worth anything? Why are people talking to me like I'm just a sexualized object? Why am I swiping through all these people? It's not like it was just me observing what other people were doing. I needed to be reflexive on how I was becoming very quickly subsumed in this digital world, as someone who was not into technology at all, how quickly I became seduced.
Yeah, I'm wondering a lot these days about that, the longing for real deep human connection that I think we all share. And then at the same time, this expansion of the digital world and technology. And there's a gap, right? I mean, in your conversations with your students and so on, how do you see us navigate this in the world today?
Well, I don't think we do a very good job of it because we're not talking about how we feel when we're moving through these new domains and these spaces in between. We used to think of these, it's real or not real, or digital or in real life, when in reality it is extremely blurry. And I don't think that we're talking enough about how we're making sense of that blurriness and the impact that it's having on not just our mental health, but also how we feel about each other, how we communicate with each other, and how we might want to shift the dialogue and the experience so that it is less digital, because we have ample research to demonstrate that it's not that great when we rely exclusively on digital technology, whether it's apps or social media in general. We know that. So how can we have the courage and the skills to just use that more selectively? Those are conversations that we have very, very sparingly, and then we need to have more of them.
And comes back to, again, communicating, right? I sometimes feel like in today's world, we would really have to make sure that there's enough time for us to communicate, like really expressing, right? In words in the end, even if that may at times also be tricky. And that brings me to visual expression. You talked about art before, and kind of merging that with knowing that you talk about topics that I think are taboo or not broadly discussed in this world. What helps you or what excites you about being in these roles? Have you felt like for a long time that this is who you want to be, that's your purpose, or is it something that you also need to kind of push yourself to be for the cause you're representing?
I don't really feel like I have to push myself. I feel like I have been sort of organically on this path for a very long time. And, you know, what excites me are my students. You know, I can see that they are struggling in a lot of ways. And I can also see that they have so much untapped potential and that they are entering into a world that is full of uncertainty. And I do kind of feel like it's my job not just to teach them about health and sexuality, gender, health, but also to give them confidence as people in the world who have a lot to offer. And one of the ways I do that effectively, according to them and myself, is by using art as part of my classroom technologies, and just simple things like writing a letter to themselves or reflecting on a piece of art and asking them to think about it, you know, and also making sure that they feel as safe as I can make the classroom feel. Safety is slippery. You know, you can't promise it, because you never know what someone is coming into the classroom with that day, what their experiences are, what might potentially set them off. But the best you can do is air these issues and really encourage them to have respect for themselves as well as myself and what we're doing here together in these 3 hours that we meet every week. And just setting that stage makes people feel safe, it makes people feel seen. And I always tell them that I care about them. I'm very maternal with them. You guys are my kids. And that's nice because it just makes them feel like they belong. And the university, there's 35,000 students, probably more than that. They're in these big classes often. And so those little differences are really meaningful. And they tell me that all the time in emails. I'm in touch with students I taught in 15 or 20 years ago even. And so those kinds of things really are encouraging. And also when I see the impact that I have on my school environment and my colleagues. When I first started in my particular position, there weren't that many qualitative researchers. There's no one doing research with people with HIV, Indigenous folks, people in sex work. And there was some stigma associated with some of those topics. And so it was part of my job to kind of educate and also push back against some of the challenging things that were emerging sometimes in certain spaces when people were misinformed about these topics and these populations. And so I do feel like I've had a nice impact on enriching the environment where I work.
Could you share one or two specific examples, maybe from the classroom or, you know, where you witnessed that turnaround?
Yeah. Okay. So last year, my one course that involves a lot of art is called Creative Healing. We had just been on our second lecture, and I had asked them to write a letter, I think a letter to themselves in the future. And a young man, most of my classes are women, most in the health sciences, most of my colleagues are female, and most of our students are women. But in this class, I have about 7 or 8 men, usually young men, and this young man who I'd never seen in any of my other classes. So he shared his letter with me by email. He didn't feel comfortable to read, and I don't force anyone. And as I read his letter, again, this is only the second week. I barely know this young man. And he's reflecting on the impact that this class has had and how he grew up in a home where art was considered something that was extra, something that was for women, something that was for his sister. And then he talked about when he has children. I'm like, when you have children, and he's like, in his letter, he's like, when I have children, I'm going to talk to them about art because I know how much it can make a difference in someone's life. This is week 2. So that was just, I was crying. I was so thankful to him. It's such a small thing. It doesn't cost a dime, So when you want to change paradigms. A lot of people, oh, no, we can't. It's too much money. It's too much money. No. It's not always about money. It's about shifting other things and being open.
And art somehow as an potentially universal language, right? Something that we connect to, and it doesn't need words necessarily,
That's right. Exactly.
or it may help us to find the words for something. What's your journey with art?
Oh, well, I think, as a small kid, my parents were divorced. And on Sundays, which was the day I used to spend with my dad, we would always go to the art gallery, in part because it was free and my dad never had much money. Sorry, Dad. Sorry, Douglas. But we would spend time there, and he wasn't trying to tell me how to view these things. And we would spend a lot of time, and they would have some children activities. And there was a beautiful botanical garden. And it was a space that I grew up in. Those Sundays were very important in my evolution as a woman and in my evolution as a cultural person, And the city that I grew up in, Saskatoon, is quite an artistic city. It's where Joni Mitchell grew up as well. We love Joni, don't we?
Yes.
Everyone must. And so I began looking at art in my university days as well. I almost majored in art history, but then I chose anthropology. So sort of competing A's.
As long as it's an A, I just wanted to say.
Yeah. But I have just maintained my love of art, and I've gone on many trips, many conferences, and tacked on special days to explore art. There's a number of different female artists in particular who I admire tremendously, and I've had sort of these pilgrimages to their homes where they have worked, where they're from, maybe where they died even. And so art is just really everything to me.
Do you have so with that, you're mostly referring to paintings, is that? Or writing, you mentioned sculpture, is any also performing arts?
Yeah, absolutely. Going to the theater, dance, music, of course. Yeah, poetry, paintings. Jewelry is also art. I love jewelry. I love jewelry. It's so hard not to keep buying jewelry. Oh, well, I do keep buying it. Yeah, I love jewelry.
And how about tattoos?
I love tattoos. I love tattoos
it's as art on the body, I would say,
is.
Right? Is that how you would see it as well?
Yeah, it's art. It's telling my story. It's marking different turning points. But then there are some that are just fun. I love cake, and I have a cake tattoo. I have a number for musicians as well when they've died. So the crown I have here is for Aretha Franklin when she died. It's a crown, and it says soul because she was the queen of soul. I have purple rain. I have 2 purple raindrops for Prince. I have lots of them that tell different aspects of my life and different connections I have. I've gotten them all over the world as well. So that's fun to get them when I travel.
So it's a map of experiences, the world, experiences in the world, around the world. Yeah. And if you don't mind, could you take us to where you started, when? And so first time tattoo?
Yes. So I was 18 and we were in the province over from Saskatchewan. It's called Alberta. We were there for a music festival, and it was close to a city called Calgary. And they had a very famous tattoo shop called the Smiling Buddha. And me and my friend, we drove, at the time we were very hungover, and we each got a tattoo at the studio. And I got a classic beginner tattoo on my back, which was a sun. So that was my first tattoo. And I've got about 75 or so now.
And is it like random where they go, or it comes up in a moment, or is there a plan behind it?
Placement is probably the most important aspect of getting a tattoo, because ideally a tattoo should in some way complement the part of the body that it is on. And so sometimes you see something that is in a spot that's too small and it's too large, or the other way around. But a good artist will work with you to say, you know what, how about if you consider putting that on this part and maybe a little bit larger. They often encourage us to go larger because over time things shrink, colors bleed. Never get super tiny writing, because no matter how fit you are, how young you are, eventually the writing will blur and it'll shrink a bit. I've experienced that myself. So go a little larger.
there's probably, it's not only a pleasant experience. That's what I what I know. So yeah. Well, how
the pain is part of it. The pain is like, what kind of threshold can I endure? And there is kind of a meditative experience that goes on with it, because it's like you kind of might be embarrassed to stop the artist if it's too painful. Although I have, and have been like, we're going to have to pick this up another time. And it's just kind of interesting. It's part of the badge, it's like, I endured this, and you're only doing it. I'm only doing it for myself. It's part of the ritual. Most rites of passage as an anthropologist, we study these things, and they usually involve some sort of traumatic bodily transformation so that you are someone new when you emerge, right? And it is the same with tattoos. There are certain spots that hurt a lot more than others. And I often use the numbing cream, which does make a difference. The older I get, the more they hurt.
Oh, really?
But it also depends on the artist. Some artists have a lighter touch, and they use a different kind of tattoo gun that is a bit quieter. So that kind of helps it feel lighter. So there's lots of different aspects of it. But yeah, I'm going to continue to get them.
You haven't written a book yet about that, but I see the passion for it and the knowledge also that goes into it. Almost, it feels to me there's a spiritual aspect to it. Not sure, as you're saying, kind of the body, what that may mean, the part and stuff. It could be also.
Certainly. Yeah. And I think, especially for memorial tattoos, right? If a pet has died, or a parent or a loved one, those are really powerful experiences. And the first memorial tattoo that I got, it might be the only one. My maternal grandmother was in World War II. She was a volunteer nurse, and she received 5 different medals. And so I have, those are created from her medals when she served in World War II. So that was a really different kind of experience. It felt a bit somber, but also intergenerational somehow. If you can have a feeling, there's a deep connection there.
And I said, it's also something that stays, right? I think with experiences, it's, I think we often talk about kind of working through maybe and experiencing, letting go.
Right.
With the tattoos, they kind of stay, but I guess you still manage to let go while they're there, which is kind of beautiful, We don't need to cut things off and out, but
and I think, we have ongoing experiences with our bodies, and the same is true with tattoos. Some people are terrified to get a tattoo because what if they regret it?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a mistake. It's part of your life. You don't have to be perfect, right? And mine are not perfect, and they're not all from the same artist. There are some people whose bodies are just, wow, they look like they're almost AI, the same artist, everything is just perfect. It's so symmetrical. It's like, well, it's not how my life has been. And I want to continue to add to it because my story isn't done.
And is that, now I'm stereotyping, but I would assume that it could be that people judge kind of, or it's also a taboo still, I believe, around body art, as I would like to call it now. Have you encountered that? And were you aware? I mean, were you prepared for that? Did you maybe even look for it? So kind of the confront.
No, I didn't ever look for it, because there's more interesting ways to engage with people and who I am. I mean, I'm against the dominant culture in so many ways, for better or for worse. And I think there's a lot of times I have been assessed through my art that I did not know. But it's interesting when I can sense that people are looking at me, and then they learn that I am a professor. And then it's suddenly, it's art. It's interesting because it's linked with someone who is a higher status or whose profession is a higher status. But I'm always amazed at the kinds of questions that I always get. And one of the main questions that I get is, do they have meaning? Yes, they do have meaning. It's like, no, it's just frivolous. I'm just going to pay money and go through this pain and make this important decision about my body just for shits, And so I always find that interesting. And so people are obviously projecting. And sometimes, I've gone out on dates with certain people and they're like, ooh, you're such a bad girl. And it's like, well, you don't know me very well. I might be bad, but I'm a lot more than what you associate with this sort of marginal, kind of dirty, kind of criminal, kind of subcultural. Almost everyone has a tattoo or some kind of bodily modification. Most of us have our ears pierced. Most of us, some people have cosmetic surgery. There's infinite ways. Dentistry, we change so many different aspects of our body, and so it's
very true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You also created this method, right? It's now moving away from tattoos, but still linked to the body. Body mapping,
yeah.
So that's kind of, again, I'm just really kind of fascinated by how you bring the body into these into what you do, right? And to help having conversations also.
Yeah.
Could you explain a bit how body mapping came into being?
I didn't develop it. It's not my, I am just a practitioner of it. There are lots of different versions of body mapping. People have used the body to map the cosmos, to map health, the planet, Earth, etc., nature, our relationship with the world around us for centuries. But the approach that I have been trained in actually originated in South Africa. And it's a way of getting people together as part of either a community project or a research project. And you have these large 6 foot by 4 foot pieces of paper. You outline the body on it. And then you ask people questions and they respond, not in an interview like this, but they respond visually by painting something on the map, maybe writing a word, but then you also talk about color. And so before people begin responding to the questions, we have kind of like a little key or a code, like green. What can we use to express green? What does black say? What does gray say? What does white stand for? So that we involve symbolism of color as a way to express more meaningfully what people want to share about their maps. And then usually once the process is finished, sort of put the maps on a wall and have each person sit in front of their map. And then the other people in the group, we reflect on the map and say, when I look at Treena's map, I see someone who has overcome a lot of struggles and, really likes cats. Has traveled a lot, loves kids, etc. And it's a way to affirm what they have done and who they are.
It sounds like then kind of going to an art gallery, like looking at these pieces, and it's probably something, very special to be in front of these, again, artworks, as I may call it now.
Yeah.
So you're doing so many things, and I want to say in terms of art, kind of on the consumer side, in terms of going to performances or to exhibitions and so on, but then you also remodel physical spaces, right? So that goes into again art, I would think, or connection with oneself, space, and so on.
Yes.
So
you mean the interior design piece?
Yeah, right. It's not an A, but still. So I mean, you must be living multiple lives in one day. I don't know, but how are you? But let's go there a bit first with these interior spaces.
Yeah.
What's the story?
Well, what's one of the things that is behind my love of design is the fact that I have moved so many times. I've lived in like 7 or 8 provinces in Canada. I've lived in India as well during my PhD research. And so I have started over so many times in different cities because of my training and education and jobs. And so I've had multiple living spaces. And as a way to create a sense of belonging in a place that I am new in and don't really maybe feel like I belong, I bring my things with me. And so I am very sentimental about my material items. I am a good capitalist, but a capitalist with style. And so it is fun to recreate. And design, along with cooking, is one of the things that I don't care about being perfect. I take all kinds of chances and risk. I'm much looser. I take things down, move things around. I just use my own body. I don't know how to use my drill. I have a drill, but I just can't figure it out. So I'm like nailing everything over and, oh no, let's put a rug on the wall instead, and let's use this over here. And it's pure, it's free flowing, it's fun, and it moves and it changes over time. And that's a lot of good designers will say, that don't just live in your space the same as it's been for 10 years or even 5 years, because the energy changes.
Yeah.
You're different. New things have come into your life, and maybe you want to put some of the old things away. And it's so fun, and it's creative, and it's a challenge, because I like to try and do it on a budget and push my own limits and boundaries. And I now have a little sort of page on my website that's all about interior design. I have yet to have a client. So the woman who was doing a lot of my tattoos, actually, she's also a photographer. So she came in and she took pictures of my home. And so I am my own first client. And you can see some of the before images and then the after images, which are very colorful. I love color. And a lot of people are afraid of color in their homes. But then when they come in my house, they're like, oh, and I've got sort of anthropological stuff. I've got old stuff. I love antiquing. Learning about the production of things is so fascinating. I love Antiques Roadshow. It's so people love their things, and there's always a story.
So you also find time for that show.
Yes, infrequently, but yeah, I love it, because people are they're so engaged with their stuff, and they're just often just kind of weird and interesting. And I'm like, these are my people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's engaging with the stuff you now said, but then you're also in your research very much about how we engage as human beings. So you've got the full spectrum, and we love colors, as you may.
Yes, even though I am wearing black, but hey.
Yeah, yesterday you had this bright orange, which is, I mean, black is also a color, by the way.
That's right.
So, yeah, you said like recreating spaces, let's say, but then you yourself, have you kind of consciously recreated identities maybe as you moved places and so on?
Oh, certainly. Oh, yes. Because I had a lot of recreating to do. I had a lot of healing to do, went through a lot of trauma in my early years. And until I was 39, I was quite an active alcoholic. I grew up, my mother was also an alcoholic.
It's another A, but...
Yes, that is another A. Yeah. But we're both... completely away from that and done a lot of healing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a huge accomplishment, and I have no shame in talking about it. It's very important to talk about it, because people still feel embarrassed, they feel ashamed, they feel like they're not worth anything, and I felt like that for a very long time. Even though I was progressing through my job, I got a PhD, I was still struggling with my worth as a human being. And I know that my mom also struggled when she was trying to raise me. She came from a very tough family. And, you learn to forgive. Some people do, some people don't, but I certainly have. And she was doing her best. And it also taught me a lot about love. Love is complicated. A first love is very complicated. And learning about the love from parents can be really complicated too, because often the older generations were not really taught about feelings, about how to do parenting, right? And so it's a lot to take on as a child, but you're either left with your life, and either you want to create it and change it and figure it out, or you stay stuck in the past. And life is too short, and I wanted to move forward in a constructive way, and I did, and I continue to do so. Yeah,
really, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Was there a point, can you remember, where you just took that decision and from then on you stuck with it? Or was it a kind of a journey of back and forth?
No, it was March 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in a very destructive relationship at the time, and just things were really escalating, and I could see myself not performing as well at work. I could see myself becoming even violent in this terrible relationship, and I was like, this is scary. And I was tired. I was exhausted with hiding, exhausted with hating myself, exhausted being hungover all the time, exhausted struggling. And I said, no more. And I went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I didn't stay in that space. I did other kinds of healing approaches that worked better for me. I know it's changed millions of lives all over the world. But no, I haven't picked up any other, drink since then. But I know that recovery is very difficult for people. And, it can be very hard when we think, you're either, you're sober or you're off the wagon, oh, you should get, and there's a lot of judgment about the recovery process. And I think that's unfair and probably comes from not much lived experience. You have to be in it to understand how challenging it is. And you can always find your way back again, usually if you have supports and other things in place. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you share a bit about the support you found in what, in who?
My counselor, Gail. Yeah, my counselor, Gail. I thanked her in the acknowledgements in my most recent book, and in my body mapping book, I thank Gail as well. And it was really me and her. My family was very supportive as well. They lived many provinces away from me. But certain friends, you kind of lose them. And people talk about that all the time. People don't know how to be with you if you're not drinking, and because they feel like you're judging them. And it's like, no, this isn't about you. But people might already be a little bit questioning their own drinking if they're feeling like they can't be your friend anymore. So I have lost friends, but I've gained a lot of friends as well. Making friends in middle age can be challenging, but I've been quite successful at it. And so you lose some, but you gain some, and that's the way it goes. But it was myself, my counselor, family, my cats. My cats.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. So, and it's the living, then again, the living aspect of it. So not technology in that sense.
No. Very, very basic in a way. It was probably the most humbling thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. It's I'm thinking, it's very inspiring. I hope a lot of people I'm sure can benefit from what you just shared.
Yeah. Good.
So, yeah, you said at some point you were ready for romance. Was that part of that
dating app journey?
Yeah. Or no, of kind of getting away from alcohol, and that you consciously decided let me restart that.
Yes. So I had been sober for a few years by 2017, single out of that terrible relationship for a couple of years. It's like, how does one get back into the game as a sober person?
Living in a shitty village, as you said.
What?
Living in a shitty village.
Yes, living in my shitty city. Shitty city because it's a university town. There are very few people my age who I would want to be romantically involved with. And I wasn't at that point comfortable going to a bar. Now I have no problem. And so my options were limited. And so it's like, there are these dating apps. Oh, but they're embarrassing. Will I figure out how to use them? Oh my God, am I going to tell anybody? Wait, I'm also 45 years old. That's how old I was when I began swiping. Is anyone going to like me? Right? Well, the only way to find out is to begin.
To get in.
Yeah, so absolutely. And I was very determined to find someone and also to figure these apps out, which is why I hung on and wanted to document the shit out of my experience, because I'm like, I'm gonna figure this out. I am not going to be left by the wayside. I'm going to find romance. And I did, but it was really hard on me. It was difficult that first few months in particular, when I was just learning how to use them and get back into the world as a sober person. But it was also really fun too. I met some amazing people.
How has the world changed for you? What the lens, from now you're saying into how to live in the world as a sober person. Is there again, maybe speaking a bit like pieces of art or before, after, has anything changed? The colors or something? Is it possible to describe it in this way? Maybe it's not.
Yeah, no, I think, in many ways, every single thing about my life is different. My entire universe is different. Because I have more time.
Oh.
I am awake. I'm not sleeping.
Yeah.
I am present. I am I'm cognitively sharp. I am very dedicated to myself.
That's beautiful.
And that's something new. And I don't care if that sounds selfish, because if we're not okay, then that has a ripple effect in every aspect. Then people who I work with are not all right. The people who I'm in relationships with, my friends, who you are is so essential to the well-being in every other aspect of your life. And so everything is better. Everything is better. But there are things that are harder because, it's kind of spicy term, but raw dogging life is hard because you don't have anything to hide behind, nothing to take the edge off in that way. But, you know, I just yesterday celebrated 1 year of meditating every day.
Wow.
That has been a great practice and such a good teacher because I can be quite high-strung and stressful, especially in menopause. That's a first. Whoa, that's a big first, let me tell you. Woo, that's been a roller coaster. But that's something also that almost every woman and female identifying person on the planet will experience at some point or another. I'm really happy that there are more conversations about that happening too.
So is that another topic that you're kind of diving into also as part of your work now?
Well, not so much part of my work, but it's part of my life and part of connecting with other people, whether it's in social media or connecting with my friends in different ways and opening up to each other about this intimate yet very common experience. Again, a way of taking away the shame from it and just being as part of being human.
Is there any first that you would like to bring into your life in the next weeks or months, maybe?
Yes. I want to do a TED Talk. I want to do a TED Talk. That's a huge first for me. And actually at a Mind Valley event on the first day, we were in groups and we're talking about big insurmountable goals or big challenges that we have for our future. And mine was I want to do a TED Talk in 2026. And some of the friends in that group, they attended my author interview yesterday and they're like, "You're ready. Yep, you're ready. You can do it." So that experience yesterday gave me a tremendous amount of confidence to pursue it and map it out and think about what I might like to talk about.
I just wanted to ask. So it's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. I don't know. I have a few different ideas, but I've got time to develop them. And I also want to see what else has been spoken about because you want to bring something fresh to the scene. But I love so many things, as you know. I can talk about a lot of different things, and so it'll come.
Many A's, yeah. Is there anything you would like to leave us with as a final message?
Well, on the topic of A, we are in Amsterdam.
Yeah, true.
And this has just been such a nice opportunity to explore the city in a more fulsome way. I've been here many times, but just usually for a little stopover. And it's a healthy city if people are active. I like the way people are living in these apartments. It's very economical in terms of the environment. And it's just, I love being in Europe. I love Europe. It's a different orientation to the world. Feels a bit more balanced, a bit more communal, which I really like.
I'm glad that you can kind of absorb the energy. We were curious to see when the TED Talk will take place. We will look out for that.
Yes.
And thank you so much for being here.
It's been really nice.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. If you liked today's episode, it would mean the world to us if you like it and share it with anyone who could need a boost in courage. We would also like to hear from you. What are your reflections after this conversation? Please share them with us in the comments, and let's keep creating these powerful, intentional fasts together. We'll see you next first time. Until then, much love and courage. Ciao.